We're now getting some breaking news on the broadcast. This time, Trinamool Congress's MP Santanu Sen has taunted Prime Minister Narendra Modi over his LCA Tejas sortie. He has said, and I'm quoting from his statement, just like India lost the World Cup because of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's presence in the stadium, now Tejas might crash as the Prime Minister is the harbinger of bad luck. Let's first listen into that reaction.
I am little bit afraid. When Mr. Narendra Modi was very much there in the country, the ISRO failed. When Kankana Ranawat has met with Mr. Narendra Modi, her movie became a super flop. When Virat Kohli shook hands with Narendra Modi, he didn't get century for 3 consecutive years. And finally, after winning 10 consecutive matches in the recently held World Cup, just because our learned Prime Minister went to that stadium, India got defeated in the final. Now, the job has been done by Narendra Modi. I am afraid that in no time, this particular craft gets crashed.
That's a very controversial statement that has been made by Santanu Sen of the Trinamool Congress. Remember, Prime Minister Narendra Modi got a first-hand feel of the indigenous light combat aircraft Tejas as he took a sortie in the trainer version of the aircraft on November 25th. And this is what Santanu Sen is referring to. In fact, Mr. Sen is with us on the broadcast now. Mr. Sen, thank you so much for joining us on this conversation. That's a very, very controversial statement to make, sir.
So I was going through the chronologies. It is absolutely my personal opinion. I was recalling that during the earlier days, when one very renowned person was very much there in the country, that Chandrayaan failed miserably. Then I was recalling there is one very popular female actress, Kankana Ranawat. She went to meet with some very renowned person. After meeting him, suddenly her movies became super flop. And recently we have seen that Virat Kohli, once he has met with that particular person, then he was away from his centuries for 3 consecutive years. And finally, the most unfortunate part of the event was, after winning 10 consecutive matches in World Cup, one very gentleman was very much present in the final who was absent in all other 10 matches. And the winning team of Indian cricket team got defeated. These are the chronologies which just created a suspicion in my mind that God forbid that aircraft that has been used by that particular person doesn't crash in future.
Mr. Sen, we do understand the statement that you're making, and the fact that you've already named this particular famous person that you are now talking about, there's no point not naming him now. I really want to understand, because here you are talking about LCA Tejas. It is an indigenous aircraft. The Prime Minister, one of the first time any Prime Minister of the country has, done that trainee sortie on it. Now that has been achieved, it is also a proud moment for India. It's not just about Prime Minister Narendra Modi that we're talking about here, but when you go on to say that this might crash because Prime Minister Narendra Modi is inauspicious, that's sort of a little rich and a little controversial.
Why don't you say that Mr. Gentleman doesn't find any time to go to Manipur when the Manipur is burning since last few months? Why don't you say that very gentleman doesn't find any time to go to the Uttar Kashi when nearly 41 people, their lives are in danger since last 14-15 days?
Okay.
Why don't you say that?
Okay.
Why don't you say that he finds time only in publicity and he never finds any time to stand by the people who are in distress?
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. In fact, let me take that very point to Manjinder Singh Sirsa of the BJP, is also with us on the broadcast. Mr. Sirsa, that is an authentic point that is coming in from the TMC. The Prime Minister has not found time to visit either Manipur or Uttar Kashi, where we still, in fact, grappling that the 41 workers who are trapped inside be taken out. There is report that he has taken everything under consideration. He has also kept abreast with what the update is, but never found time to be there. How does the BJP respond to all of those accusations that are coming the BJP's way?
क्या मतलब इवन अदरवाइज अगर पीएम की आप बात कर रहे हैं, पीएम मणिपुर नहीं गए, तो क्या मणिपुर के अंदर जब पहले लॉ एंड ऑर्डर बिगड़ी थी, इंदिरा प्राइम मिनिस्टर थी, उनके बाद राजीव गांधी जी प्राइम मिनिस्टर थे, तो क्या वो वहां जाके कैंप लगाकर बैठे थे? या तो देश के गृह मंत्री वहां बैठे रहे थे। इनका तो गृह मंत्री की छोड़िए, मंत्री भी कभी नहीं गया था। और अभी ये बता रहे हैं, इसका मतलब होगा कि आप ये कहेंगे कि तेजस जो हमारा फाइटर प्लेन है वो गिर जाए। तो आपका इशू क्या था? इशू है कि आप कह रहे हैं कि जिस प्लेन के अंदर प्रधानमंत्री जी ने उड़ान भरी है, मुझे लगता है कि कहीं वो गिर ना आ जाए। तो आप तो हमारे पायलट को मारने तक के लिए जा रहे हैं। किस सोच से? आपकी सोच क्या है? आप प्रधानमंत्री जी का नुकसान करना चाहते हैं, आप एक इंडिविजुअल आदमी नरेंद्र मोदी का नुकसान करना चाहते हैं, आप बीजेपी का करना चाहते हैं, ठीक है, मैं मान सकता हूँ। लेकिन आप उसके चलते हमारे आर्मी के जवानों का, एयरफोर्स का, हमारे लड़ाकू जहाजों को गिराना चाहते हैं ताकि प्रधानमंत्री को ब्लेम किया जा सके। ये कैसी गंदी राजनीति है? How can he justify by saying that Prime Minister never went to Manipur? That means that हमारा तेजस जहाज गिर जाए? Is it justified by saying this?
All right, absolutely. In fact, I asked about this question, this very thing, to Mr. Santanu Sen. He's unfortunately left the broadcast. We also have Shehzad Poonawala of the Bharatiya Janata Party who's with us now. Mr. Poonawala, like Mr. Sirsa was mentioning, this is a very controversial statement to make. I asked this of the TMC MP, Mr. Santanu Sen, and he is in fact citing chronology that wherever Prime Minister Narendra Modi goes, there seems to be something inauspicious or the other that follows.
Griya, we are having this discussion on national channel like CNN News18 that somebody is auspicious and inauspicious. Have we not seen the impact this kind of rubbish has had on society in India for thousands of years? And the MP of Trinamool Congress has the audacity to say, and I quote him, that somebody shook hands with somebody so that person did not score century. And then after that he has sat in Tejas, so Tejas will crash. And the channel is calling me for a reaction. Is this worthy of a reaction? Today we should be all in one line condemning this nonsense.
No, absolutely, Shehzad, but I really want to understand this. Why do you think the Trinamool Congress is raking up the World Cup issue again and again, and this time they are now linking it to the country's indigenous carrier, light combat carrier Tejas, because obviously this was a huge and controversial statement to make. Why do you think they are just, stretching it so far with this kind of a belated reaction and then putting in Tejas also into it?
Because they are intellectually, morally and politically bankrupt people. I just have one question to ask. Do we as a country today and members of parliament like Santanu Sen want to push forward this unscientific thought process that somebody is a good omen and bad omen? Point one. Point two, use a pejorative that has been used against in certain times against women and against certain castes to keep them away and to subject them to apartheid. That philosophy is now being peddled, saying that if somebody shakes hands with somebody, it brings bad luck. And thirdly, he wants the national asset of Tejas, which will be flown by pilots of our country, to crash.
Right, absolutely.
This is the state of TMC. I think if all of us, including people in the media, do not ask Mamata Banerjee a hard question about this MP should be sacked. This MP has no right to continue to be an MP. If Mamata Banerjee has any ounce of integrity left in her, she should sack this man. He wants our planes to crash because he hates Modi.
All right, Mr. Shehzad Poonawala, thank you so much for sharing your views. So that is the view of the Bharatiya Janata Party demanding a sacking of Santanu Sen after this hugely controversial statement that has been made by him against not just the Prime Minister, but the country's indigenous light combat aircraft Tejas, where he claims that just because Prime Minister Narendra Modi sat on it, it might crash.